Hello, Stephen Dean speaking. And good day to you, New Hope Ministry. I'm very pleased to be back here again to talk to you. I'll kind of carry on with some more thoughts and lessons from the Course of Miracles and the new teachings of Jesus. And today I want to talk about fear, it being a main product of where we actually live. And when I say where we actually live, I'm talking about this illusion that we currently inhabit. You see, God being perfect love, and this being the opposite of him, his main characteristic, of course, is fear. Now, back in God's oneness, there's no fear there because it's just perfect love. That's all it is. And he has no real opposite. You see, in his creation of this world of separation, his perfect mind divided it into perfect opposites. You see, and perfect opposites, a positive and a negative, are always going to produce conflict. No matter what happens here, perfect opposites produced by a perfect mind will produce conflict because they're opposites. Back in the world of God, in his world of perfect love, there are no opposites. So there's no conflict. So with no conflict, there's only perfect peace. The perfect peace of perfect love. Anyway, when this came about, I mean, we could go right back to Adam and Eve. I mean, when Adam and Eve first appeared, I mean, well, put it this way, in the Bible it says, God calls Adam to fall asleep. Well, Adam is Hebrew for man, right? So, God calls Adam to fall asleep. There's nothing in the Bible about him waking up again. Once that dream commenced the dream of separation. Adam then dreamt of somebody separating from him. You see, and Adam became two. He became separated, as did everything else here. Every single thing here has an opposite. Even colours have opposites. Yellow is the opposite of purple. Green is the opposite of orange. All of them have opposites. Everything has an opposite here, except one. Truth. Truth doesn't have an opposite. Well, someone could say, well, what about lies? Well, yeah, lies in a dictionary, I say, or something like that, it would say lies is the opposite of truth. But that's a worldly thing. In reality, truth isn't, well, lies aren't anything, are they? They're just nothing. Something you've made up. They're not true. They're made up. They're not true. So they're the opposite of truth and not truth, you see. Someone else could say, well, what about error? Well, what's error about something not being as it's supposed to be? Like this isn't as it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to be all separated. We're supposed to be in heaven. And in fact, as I said last week, we are in heaven. We've always been in heaven. We can't leave heaven. We can only dream we've left heaven. And any notion of leaving heaven has got to be an illusion. And that takes us back to what I said about lies being the opposite of truth, lies being nothing. Truth has no opposite, because nothing is its opposite. And the same applies to this. In truth, there is only truth. And anything that's opposing truth must be an illusion, because truth is oneness. In oneness is literally that oneness. It doesn't have an opposite. It can't have an opposite, otherwise it wouldn't be true oneness. So anything that appears to be its opposite can only be an illusion. And that's one of the greatest clues of all, on pondering on it. Now, because this illusion consists of, well, what it is, but first of all, explain time and space. When the illusion came about, everything became separated, right? And all of a sudden, things have got to get from A to B, because we need time to cross this space. Time and space are essentially the same thing, because they can't exist without each other. If there's no space, there's no time needed to cross anything. If there's no time, there can't be any space, because time is essentially what we call life. Life is allied to our lives, because life is what we do with the time crossing this space. Time is what we've called our lives. Now, that sounds a bit complex, but it's not really. Essentially, we need time to cross space. And our lives are all about crossing that space. Even the blood in our veins is going round and round. Even in the molecules, even when we appear to be sitting still, the electrons are whizzing round the neutron inside the molecules. Everything is a constant state of flux. in exact opposition to the stillness and peace of God, where there's no movement at all. That's hard to imagine in our current state because we're in a world of movement. But when we remember who we truly are, it is brought on by that great stillness within the mind. The mind is stilled, and once it's stilled, it can reconnect with God. And then you realise once again that everything is one, everything is connected, and it's not separate as we've always thought it was. In the Bible, in the book of John, it says, in the beginning there was God. In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God. Well, yeah, the Word was God. Everything was God in the beginning. That was the Word. There was only one Word, and that Word was God. But when we forgot who we are, which was quite simple really, I mean, given if Adam and Eve, for example, are our parents, if they decided not to tell their children what they were or who they were, how would they ever know that they were dreaming? It's so realistic, isn't it? Realistic to our way of thinking, because we don't know any different. You see? So within this world, which is the opposite world to love, fear, we have this passage through time which leaves us memories. Now, if in those memories, like as we move through time, we do something we regret, we're haunted by those memories, which gives us guilt, which leads to fear of punishment. You see, that's what's so bad about guilt. It subconsciously makes us fear punishment. So everybody's walking around with their shoulders up or in a state of fear of a punishment from which direction they don't know it's going to come and who's going to deliver this punishment. You know, because this guilt makes people feel guilty. I mean, in this world, people feel guilty for not feeling guilty. That's how bad it is. But guilt makes people fear, you see. And they don't even know what they're really fearing, because something that happened in the past is unlikely to produce any punishment now except in your own mind. But this punishment is what's feared. So people walking around in anticipation of a punishment that's probably never going to come, but they're totally within this state of fear. You see, and it's all caused by thinking about the past. There is no past. There's only now. There's only right now. There's no other time. The past equals guilt and the future equals worry. Do your best to keep out of them and keep your mind in the now. If it's all right now, it's all right. It's impossible to grasp a certain now within this environment because time, the future, or the past, or the future say, slips almost seamlessly into the past, and we can never seem to grab that now moment. It's always in the constant, it's always the future moving into the past, and we can't grab that now. That's because now isn't really here. Now is in the unseen world of God. That's why it's so important to meditate, or at least contemplate these subjects, and get your mind into a state of stillness. Because in that state of stillness, you're closer to God than ever. The mind. The body can't remain still. As I said, the molecules and the blood and everything are all in a state of motion. But you can keep your mind still. And that's where God is. You see. Try not to think on the past. If you can. It's very, very difficult because actually you don't think about the past. Your mind shoves these things in front of you. You don't think, oh, I'm going to feel guilty in a minute. You're just walking along the main road, all tickety-boo and happy, and suddenly, bang, one of these thoughts appears out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, you're shrouded in guilt again and feeling, oh no, not that. And sometimes these thoughts can hang on for weeks. The Course in Miracles teaches you how to deal with those thoughts. One, for example, is bringing Jesus to them. Next time you've got one of these thoughts in your mind, imagine Jesus coming with you and standing with you in the thought, and ask him to look at it with you. And asked him to forgive you. And he'll just tell you that it was never real anyway. And that you're forgiven. In fact, if you imagine Jesus in that memory, imagine Jesus standing within it, you'll know that it's not true. Because Jesus is truth. And he's now standing in a memory which didn't really exist. You know, it never existed when it happened. The whole thing is a dream. In fact, it's a dream within a dream. All of us are all dreaming the same dream, like we're on a big stage, right? Everybody sees this stage, everybody sees the same scenery, and everybody uses the same props. But we're all writing our own screenplay about what's going on in it. And when we pass on, that screenplay goes with us. It was never real. None of our screenplays or lives are real. And when we pass on, all memory of them goes with them. They're nothing. They're not true. Truth is permanent. Truth is forever. There's nothing in this world that's forever. Even the universe is not forever. One day the universe, which is actually the dream, will pass. And when the universe will pass, when the very last one of us decides or realises that it's a dream, and then the dream is over. That's what the last judgment is, actually. The very last man thinking this is real, realising that it's not. And that's the end, and that is the last judgment, you see. Also, like the universe is actually the real Son of God, you know. Everything is the Son of God. Everything is in the mind of God. Like everything is in your dreams at night, it all inside your mind. This is all inside the mind of God, you see. You can't be anywhere else. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, I think that'll be it for this week. And bear that in mind. If it's all right now, it's all right. Okay. Thank you, New Hope Ministry. And I'll see you next time. Cheers. I'll see ya.